And welcome back to coverage here of the World Championship. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. And as you saw, this means a lot to the players. We've seen that come up multiple times throughout the course of our weekend as we head into semifinal number 2 here. Now, down in the feature, Paul, we've got Jean-Emmanuel Depraz on Temur Treasures, and he is going to be facing that man right there, Yuta Takahashi with Izzet Dragons. Yuta, completely unstoppable in standard, has yet to drop a match. That's right, he went 0-3 yesterday in the booster draft portion, putting himself in a horrible position for top 4 and rattled off 7 wins in a row. We got to hear at the news desk a little bit, Paul, about what the players thought of the matchup. Are we going to kind of just average it out? One said 50-50, one said pretty bad.
Yeah. I would also maybe lean towards Yuta Takahashi a little bit here. Yuta was talking about, if Jean-Emmanuel does get those really, really quick starts with Jaspera Sentinel into Magda into Dragon, those are really tough to beat. But outside of that, he feels pretty decent in the matchup. But now look at Jean-Emmanuel's hand. He's got that start.
Really great start. Yeah, this is going to be terrible news for Yuta Takahashi. He said if this is the start that Jean-Emmanuel has, he can't beat it. And he's going to say, okay, well, I'm going to nab something here, though. Jwari Disruption's going to hit this Magda. That's huge there for Yuta.
That was gigantic. And this is Yuta understanding this matchup, and just the way that you lose is with the start where he goes turn 2 Magda. Oftentimes, if you're on the play, turn 2 against an aggressive strategy, you just run out Smoldering Egg, right? You go, all right, I'm going to go Smoldering Egg, and then I'll have Disruption for it. Whatever you have to follow up. He did have a Divide by 0 too, but he realizes how backbreaking it would be if Jean-Emmanuel did have that start, and now he's set up pretty well here. I mean, he's not going to be able to turbo flip his egg, but he's got answers for the next couple of things that Jean-Emmanuel can deploy.
Yeah, really interesting tension here for Yuta. He's decided to take the more controlling route, leaving himself Divide by 0 or Prismari command available for this turn. But as a result of this line of play, these eggs are in hand, and they are losing their chance to flip every single turn. Now, if he can make this game go very long, that won't be a problem. They actually turn over quite quickly once you get going. But he's giving up a lot here by taking this more passive stance.
He is, and now because he was going to miss a land drop for the turn, he has no choice but to run out the environmental sciences. So now he's gonna run out the egg, and Jean-Emmanuel now has free reign this turn. This is a turn for him to really, resolve something powerful. Now, he was talking about how he's going to have to rely pretty heavily on Dragon's Fire to deal with Smoldering Egg. This is a card that he's really concerned about, but he also wants to put pressure on the battlefield. So probably wants to just run out this Moonveil region. He could also just play Ranger class and just make sure he gets a Smoldering Egg off the battlefield.
It looks like that's going to be the game plan here. Ranger class after the Innkeeper. Goldspan Dragon into hand here for Takahashi. He is a mana short, however.
Yeah. Bit of a tough situation here for Yuta. Several different options. You can run out the Memory Deluge to make sure you hit your land drops, but you're not really adding to the board or disrupting what your opponent's doing in any way. The alternative line is to use maybe Prismari command, maybe even kill the treasure, maybe kill the wolf, or kill the wolf and give yourself a treasure and just give yourself a little more mana to work with so that you can ensure that you'll be casting Goldspan Dragon next turn while disrupting what's in play.
You can see the Smoldering Egg building up those counters. It's got 4 now thanks to Memory Deluge, and that puts it really close to transforming. Prismari command in hand even already at the ready, for next turn. But I wonder if Jean-Emmanuel can get far enough ahead that it may not matter.
Yeah, Jean-Emmanuel really doesn't want to crack this treasure if he needs to, but it is a good use of his mana here, right? That he does have that 1 extra forest in play. And that Smoldering Egg is almost certainly going to flip next turn.
How big of a deal is that going to be? We've seen board states where the dragon hitting the battlefield has been effectively devastating, right? Where it just completely tears the whole thing up and leaves the opponent with really no way to get back ahead. Is that going to be the case here?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Jean-Emmanuel's hand, he does have he does have 2 of the 3 copies of Dragonfire, and he was talking about how important this card was in the matchup. So while Yuta's tapped out, remember, Yuta has counterspells. This, now with the 4 counters, you really want to try to get this off the battlefield.
Yeah, tough spot there for Yuta. Using Fading Hope on your egg after you've already kind of gotten a bunch of counters on it doesn't feel super great. He's just going to let it go. The key extra text on Dragon's Fire coming in very handy here for Jean-Emmanuel, as often it will do 4 damage rather than its default 3, and that's a big deal when people are playing Goldspan Dragons and Smoldering Eggs.
And Jean-Emmanuel taking the opportunity to get in for 5. He could have potentially played out the Moonveil Regent, but that would have basically made him use that treasure and do less damage this turn.
Right. Nice little attack here. Yuta was sitting pretty at 20. Now he's down to 15. He still has Fading Hope. And he's going to draw a land for the turn, and it looks like that's what he wanted to see.
Oh, yeah. He was excited about that draw. And now, I mean, keep in mind, too, he's got 1 copy of Fading Hope in his deck. And he has it. So now he can actually protect his Goldspan Dragon if he wants to the Dragon's Fire that Jean-Emmanuel Depraz has in hand. And if he wants to use interactive spells, right, he can make sure he holds control, target his own Goldspan Dragon with Fading Hope, then crack his treasures to make sure he gets the 2 mana to cast either the Deluge in his hand or cast that Prismari command.
Wow, big turn of events here for Yuta Takahashi.
Yeah, and he was saying basically one of the keys in this matchup is first person to resolve Goldspan Dragon will be firmly ahead.
And that certainly seems to be the case here, as there's no Goldspans in sight right now for Jean-Emmanuel. He does have a pair of Moonveil Regent, but let's not kid ourselves. Goldspan Dragon is significantly better than that. And yeah, Yuta may look to ride this dragon to victory.
Yeah, and Yuta just deciding whether or not he wants to crack that treasure for the Smoldering Egg. He'll still have Fading Hope up, so he's reasonably safe here, and it's also just a decent blocker with this board, right? There's a pair of 2/2s in play with the Ranger class that's been upgraded, so that 0/4 body just does a really good job of just kind of getting in the way of kind of the offense that Jean-Emmanuel has here.
Jean-Emmanuel nods in approval as he sees the Smoldering Egg hit the battlefield as well. It's interesting because even as a one-of with the Fading Hope, Jean-Emmanuel's really forced to face down the possibility that it's there, as it's just the 1 blue mana left over. It's kind of the only card.
Yeah. John right now has access to 6 mana, so he can play Moonveil Regent, and he can cast Dragon's Fire for 4 damage. So he can get either the Goldspan Dragon or Smoldering Egg off the battlefield, but he doesn't have an answer for both. And when Yuta untaps, he's going to have a ton of mana available to him. It's not going to be very difficult for him to flip that Smoldering Egg into an Ashmouth Dragon, which will also be really, really problematic on this board just full of 2 toughness creatures.
Yeah, it looks like Yuta is kind of his game at this point. Let's see if Jean-Emmanuel can come up with a line of play that can get him further ahead. But as you said, you know, even the Smoldering Egg soaking up damage here is doing work. This is all before it transforms. There's Moonveil Regent. It's going to hit the battlefield and bump Jean-Emmanuel back up to 18. Players' life totals have remained relatively high thus far, but we're starting to get critical mass on both sides of the battlefield, where one player is going to take over pretty soon, and those life totals are going to start plummeting.
Yeah, and Jean-Emmanuel here I mean, this is big, right? This Dragon's Fire, he has to choose the right target for the Dragon's Fire and also the right timing. When does he want to use this? Does he want to use it now? Or does he want to use it on Yuta Takahashi's turn to maybe tax his mana just a little bit more? Because keep in mind, if he uses Dragon's Fire to try and target and kill Goldspan Dragon, that would give Yuta Takahashi 3 mana, right? With the treasure and the island that's up. With that 3 mana, all the counter spells that he has is live. So he would be able to counter that Dragon's Fire if Jean-Emmanuel chose to cast it on his turn.
Yuta's going to draw his card for the turn. It's a mountain. So far, Jean-Emmanuel has declined to use his Dragon's Fire. He does have it at the ready, but here we go. Prismari command going on the stack now. That looks to take down the Jesper Sentinel. And by the way, that'll force the issue here. Jean-Emmanuel will have to decide right now if he's going to fire off this Dragon's Fire or if he's going to leave it in his hand. And he doesn't have a choice anymore.
Yep.
Use it or lose it, as it were. I mean, he may be able to cast it next turn, but is it getting any better than this?
Yeah, and Jean has shown a lot of patience here with this Dragon's Fire. And this is just a really, really rough spot, because if Jean-Emmanuel uses that Dragon's Fire on the Goldspan Dragon, I mean, Yuta Takahashi can simply just replay it with all the treasure that he's going to get, right? If he saves it with the Fading Hope and with the Dragon's Fire, that's just 4 mana.
Yeah, it's funny because having a Goldspan Dragon in play just means mana's not an issue anymore. You just end up accruing so much of it, especially if people try to fight. It looks like Jean-Emmanuel's going to let it go, though. And this is huge because now we're going to see Memory Deluge here. And you know what that means? That Smoldering Egg has awoken into Ashmouth Dragon, Paul.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is going to be completely insane. Because keep in mind, now we can just use that Fading Hope to bounce the Moonveil Regent and kill the Prosperous Innkeeper if you want. But because he found Thundering Rebuke, why not just kill it?
Wow, even better, he says. And there it goes. Take down your 2 best creatures. Bang, bang. This is also going to unlock a huge attack here from Yuta Takahashi. And he'll get to keep that Fading Hope at the ready. This one really looks like it's falling apart here for Jean-Emmanuel Depraz. Boy, you know, Paul, I keep going back to turn 2. Right? There was a critical turn where Jean-Emmanuel actually had the opener that Yuta didn't want him to have, but Yuta recognized the importance of that, kept up Jwari Disruption, was able to counter Magda, and he hasn't looked back.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's just say, given that Yuta Takahashi knew his matchup, may have practiced a few games of this matchup, because he truly understands what's important here. Even on the play, turn 2 egg is just, it's almost an automatic. That's just what you do. But he understands, like, okay, you know what? If this game goes a little bit longer and I can just take a little bit of control, you know, and use my hand disruption, you know, my late game is going to be better. I have Memory Deluge in my deck. You don't.
Right. And it is funny because, I mean, his deck is in many ways built for that turn 2 egg. He said before the tournament that he felt that Smoldering Egg's the best 2-drop in the whole format. And, you know, when you build your deck around it like that, it does really kind of insist that you play it out on turn 2. But he recognized that this matchup isn't quite the same, that he can't beat that Jesper Sentinel into Magda opener. And boy, has his adjustments paid off here. Big play here from Jean-Emmanuel. He did find Goldspan Dragon. He had just enough mana to get it on the battlefield, but it doesn't look like it's going to stay there for very long, Paul.
Yeah.
This would be game, right?
So the nice thing here is no matter what, Jean will be able to kill one of the dragons, right?
Right.
Because if you use a Fading Hope to target the Goldspan Dragon, you get the treasure. Before the bounce resolves, you sack the treasure, cast Dragon's Fire, and you can get that, at this point, probably Ashmouth Dragon off the battlefield, given that you're at 8 life. And then just hope that you find some way to kind of get in the way of this Goldspan Dragon that Yuta Takahashi has in hand.
Yeah, this was very close. Like, Takahashi was threatening lethal here. Jean-Emmanuel needed this to happen just to be able to survive. And you can't say he's in a very good position here as well. I mean, he's still going to be taking 4 from Goldspan. Oh,
there we go.
Another Goldspan Dragon off the top of the library. Let's just keep it simple, says Yuta Takahashi. I'll raise you 1 Goldspan Dragon. Bang, bang. That's game number 1 going to Yuta. Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
That was a sick way to end the game 1.
We've seen those dragons just do so much work here, and it just seems... I mean, Depraz even had several answers, but I mean, those Dragon's Fires can only do so much when you're playing against a deck with 8 targets that you absolutely need to deal with. And Depraz found answers for a couple, but I mean, Yuta just kept finding them.
Yeah, really, really impressed by Yuta Takahashi there. Look, his deck helped him out a little bit at the end to kind of seal the deal, but you know, his adjustments to his play style really are what got him the job done there, because Jean-Emmanuel, boy, he must have looked at that opening hand and thought, oh, wow, I got it all here. I'm good to go. And he just wasn't quite able to put the pieces together. He got tantalizingly close, but wasn't quite able to do so.
Yeah. Now, things change a bit after sideboard here. We see Jean-Emmanuel does have a couple of additional answers to Goldspan Dragon. We're bringing in those 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke that should be quite strong against both Alrund's Epiphany and the Goldspan Dragon here, along with the Memory Deluge. And also Briarbridge Tracker, a card we really haven't seen too much of. But in matchups like this, right, where it is, there is some attrition involved, it can be quite powerful. And see that on the corner, that 3 copies of Tangle Trap. Those are going to do a lot of heavy lifting in this matchup.
All right, so full sideboards in here for our players as we go into game number 2 of our second upper semi. If you're just tuning in, we've already done the first upper semi, and we saw Jan Merkel advance while knocking Andre Strosky down to the lower bracket. Nobody's out of the tournament just yet, so take a deep breath. Everything's okay. But boy, that track on the upper half of the bracket, that is certainly where you want to be. If you get knocked down to the lower, you've got a lot of work to do to make your way back to the championship match. So let's get underway here in game number 2, Paul. How's that opener look for Yuta?
Well, Yuta's hand is fantastic. I mean, you have a few lands, you got interaction, and you have an egg. So you don't have any of your clunky, expensive cards in your hand, so you got to be happy with that hand.
Pretty much perfect. He's going to leave things off, actually, with Shatter Skull Smashing. He's got Hall of Storm Giants Mountain as well. Wow, that hand is nice from Yuta. This is the Smoldering Egg opener. Also, no spells yet from Jean-Emmanuel. That means that Smoldering Egg's just going to jump right on the stack and right into play. How long will it sit on the battlefield? Looks like a very short period of time here. Dragon's Fire revealing Goldspan Dragon is 4 damage, and that's going to crack that egg.
Yeah, and Jean-Emmanuel didn't have a turn 2 play, but then got one because he got a target for the Dragon's Fire, and now he's going to be able to go Reckless Stormseeker into Asika's Chariot on turn 4, which is a really powerful combination if Yuta doesn't have an answer.
That's fantastic. You see the Burning Hands. Oh, and Heated Debate off the top of the library. Oh boy, is this just Yuta Takahashi's day? This is looking good. He takes down the Stormseeker there with Heated Debate, one of the key removal spells that he needed there. Now, Asika's Chariot's still going to hit the battlefield, and we all know what that card can do. It also demands an answer, which he actually has in his hand as well. With
he does, but he doesn't have a clean answer for that Goldspan Dragon that Jean-Emmanuel Depraz has. He can choose to divide by 0 and return it to Jean's hand, but that means that we're going to see Asika's Chariot attack unimpeded because Yuta Takahashi doesn't have blue for both Fading Hope and Divide by 0.
Awkward. Wow, that would be so good here too.
Yeah, and if you noticed, Yuta Takahashi chose to cast that Heated Debate on his main phase, choosing to keep it day instead of night, as the Reckless Stormseeker becomes far more potent when you turn it into night.
Okay. It looks like Yuta's actually toying with the idea of just casting Expressive Iteration. If he can only cast one of these spells this turn anyway, maybe he just needs to dig for that second blue mana source while he can. He actually finds it here as well. Ooh, and Thundering Rebuke too. Boy, he really does transform into a very controlling deck here post-board. He's got tons of removal. Now, he would be really happy if he still had that egg on the battlefield, but hey, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and Jean-Emmanuel's play, I mean, there's really no other lines for him. He's just going to jam everything everything that he can. And, I mean, at least for the time being, Yuta Takahashi, because he found that Thundering Rebuke, he's going to be able to Burning Hands the Chariot. He'll take 4 this turn, then he can Thundering Rebuke the Goldspan Dragon, and with what Jean-Emmanuel has left, I mean, it's just the 2 cats, right? He's gonna be able to deal with the 2 big threats on the battlefield, and then it's just gonna be the cats and whatever Jean-Emmanuel chooses to draw.
So as things line up, this is gonna be a good close game between our two
I love it.
Here.
I love it. Jean-Emmanuel choosing not to crew the Asika's Chariot here, playing around Burning Hands, and just go, you know what? I'm going to attack you with all my creatures because then if you have a removal spell, I'm going to get in for more damage this turn.
Wow, really great play there from Jean-Emmanuel. Put him on Burning Hands, was correct. Wow, that was impressive. Now he knocks him down to 11. Yuta Takahashi draws his card for the turn, and it is a nice one. He finds a Goldspan Dragon of his own, but he wants to clean up the mess here, it looks like. So he's going to go for Thundering Rebuke on the opposing Goldspan Dragon. Get that thing off the battlefield while the getting's good.
Yeah,
it's still similar to the situation that you described, right, Paul, where it's basically what's left over. Well, currently it's a cat.
Yeah, it's just a cat. So John does need to draw something big here because Utah has a lot more action, right? He's got the Burning Hands. Ooh.
Briarbridge Tracker's a nice draw.
That was a nice one. Wow, because Jean-Emmanuel has the treasure to replay this if this gets divided by zeroed.
Wow, really nice there for Jean-Emmanuel. It also gives him enough power to crew up the Asika's Chariot. Just a perfect draw. It's also gets him further into his library thanks to the clue token. He's going to crew up the Chariot, and this is going to force the issue here with Burning Hands to take it down. That's the good news for Yuta Takahashi. The bad news is, well, he still is facing down some power here. He's going to drop down to 9.
And you saw that head shake there from Jean-Emmanuel. That was a, yeah, I had the read. I got you.
He's
like, I knew you had the Burning Hands.
You were good for it. All right, yeah. There's the clue token getting sacrificed.
And remember,
it looks like it's just a land.
And remember, the text on Briarbridge Tracker does state that it gets +2/+0 if you have any kind of token in play. So even if you sacrifice the clue, if you have a treasure or 2/2 cat, it will get that +2/+0 bonus.
This is really huge here for Yuta Takahashi. He's going to hit Goldspan. He's going to get in, knock Jean-Emmanuel down to 16, and have enough for Divide by Zero available. But he's kind of hanging on. He's at 9 life. He is facing down 6 power. Yeah. He may be forced to use Divide by Zero on the tracker itself.
Yeah, I mean, we're also probably going to see Jean-Emmanuel go for a Shatter Skull Smashing on the Goldspan Dragon after this attack, right? Yeah. So you will probably see Yuta Takahashi use this Divide by Zero in some capacity, but he does have the mana to go get a Mascot Exhibition, which should do a good job of keeping those creatures at bay for the next turn.
So that's the plan. Jean-Emmanuel has a removal spell. There it is on the Goldspan Dragon. Divide by Zero. Learning some lessons here. Mascot Exhibition, plenty of mana to cast it. Use that to shore up the ground game. And once again, ride Goldspan Dragon to victory. That's what Yuta Takahashi is thinking here. And that looks like a good plan because Jean-Emmanuel found another land for the turn. He just can't seem to put together, you know, a couple of good draw steps in a row. He's found some decent stuff.
He's so close.
He is so close right now. He's cut him down to 3.
And Yuta Takahashi actually has mana to play Goldspan Dragon, attack, and then cast Mascot Exhibition.
Oh, wow. He can't do all that and leave up Dragon's Fire, right? Just don't tell me he can do all of it.
I don't know. I've messed up Goldspan Dragon Math so much because every time this enters the battlefield, it's always 1 or 2 more mana than I think I'm going to have. I mean, this thing just generates so much mana. I believe he is 1 mana short of doing all of the things.
I think you're right, Paul. Still, what a huge turn here for Yuta Takahashi, trying to keep that pressure up. So if that is the case, though, that would mean that, you know, a Goldspan Dragon for Jean-Emmanuel Depraz should seal the deal. You know, he has outs here to win the game, depending on how Yuta wants to go. I wonder if Yuta wants to play the Goldspan, but excuse me, but not attack with it. I know that's probably like
wait, that's a line? You can do that?
Yeah. It actually doesn't say must attack every turn, even though I've never seen one not.
Yeah. And now Jean-Emmanuel is probably thinking, okay, well, you could have done Goldspan into Exhibition. You probably have a 2 mana source of interaction here. You have to put Yuta on this.
Crazy smart by Yuta, because now Yuta gets to stabilize the ground game, but also have the ability to kill an opposing Goldspan Dragon because he kept his in his hand.
Yeah.
Great line here from Yuta Takahashi. Here comes Kessig Naturalist now from Jean-Emmanuel. Hey, it's a spell. It really isn't the one that he wanted to see at this point, but he'll take it, I guess. Ooh, Hall of Storm Giants. Now we're going to see Goldspan Dragon hit the battlefield once again. There is a Hall already on the battlefield too.
Yeah, I wonder how Yuta's going to choose to attack here. I believe the dragon is certainly going to get in there. Just question of whether or not he wants to also get in with the flyer.
Right.
One of the most devastating cards that Yuta needs to be mindful of is potentially another Shatter Skull Smashing here off the top, right? A Shatter Skull Smashing will get 2 creatures off the battlefield. Jean-Emmanuel Depraz has access to 8 mana, 9 mana with the Forest in his hand to basically just ensure that he'll kill any 2 creatures on Yuta's side of the battlefield.
You saw how close of a call that was. That Spirit almost the Inkling almost getting in. And then he's like, ugh. You saw him just kind of give a head shake and go, no, I'm going to hold it back. But wow, if Jean-Emmanuel keeps drawing this poorly, it's going to be easy for Yuta to cruise to victory here. We have ourselves a very close game, but Jean-Emmanuel Depraz just can't seem to find the spell he needs at the time that he needs it. Last turn, it was Kessig Naturalist, a couple of lands before that, and a land this turn as Yuta Takahashi gets ever closer to victory.
Yeah.
And look at this. He's actually looking at potentially killing the tracker here maybe and unlocking some attacks on the ground, I think.
Right. I mean, you do have a Hall of Storm Giants here too, right? And your opponent's at 12. Maybe he's also trying to basically turn his lands into lethal attackers potentially. Also, by casting a spell, you may prevent... No, that wouldn't work. Never mind.
All right. Well, he finds a Smoldering Egg. And, you know, this is... perhaps one of the downsides of Smoldering Egg is that when you do draw it way late in the game like this, it takes quite a bit of work to transform it. Not impossible by any stretch, but are we getting frisky here, Paul?
I think it's time to bash in for 7 here with the Hall of... And this is going to force a chump block, right?
Because you have double Hall here?
2,
4. He could,
but he doesn't have a lethal attack however you slice it. So he's going to go for if he attacks with the 2/1 Spirit here as well, that's going to force a chump block here from the cat.
That's right.
It looks like he wants to keep a flyer back for a Goldspan.
To a Goldspan, right? Yeah.
And this does the exact same thing, right? This is an attack here for 14, meaning that Jean-Emmanuel needs to block one of these creatures. Now, given the way that this attack has happened, Jean-Emmanuel can choose to trade maybe a 2/2 for the 3/2. But given that he doesn't have any answer to the flyer, he might want to just chump the 7/7 just to give himself a couple of more draw steps here instead of just losing up next turn.
Jean-Emmanuel kind of puts his hands up like, okay, I guess I'll block. So down to 5 he goes. He is facing lethal in the air. Jean-Emmanuel needs a real miracle here off the top of the library, or he is going to be forced down into that lower bracket. What does he find? A negate off the top of the library. You can't help but feel for Jean-Emmanuel here. This draw has just not come together. Yuta covering his bases nicely, but that is going to be Yuta Takahashi winning the match, putting him into that upper semi, or upper finals. Great job by Yuta Takahashi to manage what was a tricky scenario. That game was close the whole way through. Even when Jean-Emmanuel couldn't find what he needed, he still was threatening to win the game with a timely top deck. He just couldn't find it, Paul.